Today I'm joining Kuala Lumpur Reads. Now that's a community that gather every Saturday from 8:30 to 10:30 here at Perdana Botanical Gardens in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to read in silence in communion. So I've invited two of my friends to join me and brought the book that I'm currently reading, which is Pema Chödron's Start Where You Are. Usually in this channel, I read just a few passages that I've selected, but today I think I'm gonna read a chunk. Okay, without further ado, let's start. Poison as medicine. With the slogan Three Objects, Three Poisons, and Three Seeds of Virtue, we begin to enter into the teachings on relative bodhicitta, the teachings on how to awaken compassion. We have so far been attempting to establish that the ground of all of our experience is very spacious, not as solid as we tend to make it. We don't have to make such a big deal about ourselves, our enemies, our lovers, and the whole show. The emphasis on gentleness is the pith instruction on how to reconnect with openness and freshness in our lives, how to liberate ourselves from the small world of ego. We'll keep coming back to this sense of freshness and open space and not making such a big deal because we're now about to go into the really messy stuff. In the Buddhist teachings, the messy stuff is called klesha, which means poison. Boiling it all down to the simplest possible formula, there are three main poisons: passion, aggression, and ignorance. We could talk about these in different ways. For example, craving, aversion, and couldn't care less. Addictions of all kinds come under the category of craving, which is wanting, 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 feeling that we have to have some kind of resolution. Aversion encompasses violence, rage, hatred, and negativity of all kinds, as well as garden variety irritation. And ignorance? Nowadays, it's called denial. The pith instruction of all the Buddhist teachings, and most explicitly of the Lojong teachings, is whatever you do, don't try to make these unwanted feelings go away. That's an unusual thought. It's not our habitual tendency to let these feelings hang around. Our habitual tendency is definitely to try to make those things go away. People and situations in our lives are always triggering our passion, aggression, and ignorance. A good old innocent cup of coffee triggers some people's craving. They're addicted to it. It represents comfort and all the good things in life. If they can't get it, their life is a wreck. Other people have an elaborate storyline about why it's bad for you, and they have a version and a support group. Plenty of other people couldn't care less about a cup of coffee. It doesn't mean much at all to them. Okay, I'm going to skip that paragraph and go to this highlighted one. So, there are three things which in the slogan are called three objects. One object is what we find pleasant, another is what we find unpleasant, and a third is what we're neutral about. If it's pleasant, it triggers craving. If it's unpleasant, it triggers aversion. If it's neutral, it triggers ignorance. Craving, aversion, and ignorance are the three poisons. Our experience would write the formula as three objects, three poisons, and lots of misery. Or three objects, three poisons, and three seeds of confusion, bewilderment, and pain. Because the more the poisons arise and the bigger they get in our life, the more they drive us crazy. They keep us from seeing the world as it is. They make us blind, deaf, and dumb. The world doesn't speak for itself because we're so caught up in our storyline that instead of feeling that there's a lot of space in which we could lead our life as a child of illusion, we're robbing ourselves from letting the world speak for itself. You just keep speaking to yourself, so nothing speaks to you. The three poisons are always trapping you in one way or another, imprisoning you and making your world really small. When you feel craving, you could be sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but all you can see is this piece of chocolate cake that you're craving. With aversion, you're sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and all you can hear is the angry words you said to someone 10 years ago. With ignorance, you're sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon with a paper bag over your head. Each of the three poisons has the power to capture you so completely that you don't even perceive what's in front of you. The three objects, three poisons, and three seeds of virtue is really a peculiar idea. It turns the conventional formula on its head in an unpredictable, non habitual way. It points to how the three poisons can be three seeds of becoming a child of illusion, how to step out of this limited world of ego fixation, how to stop, how to step out of the world of tunnel vision. And the slogan is just an introduction to how this notion works. Tonglen practice will give you a very explicit method for working with this kind of lojong logic, or you could say big heart logic. There's nothing really wrong with passion or aggression or ignorance, except that we take it so personally and therefore waste all that juicy stuff. The peacock eats poison, and that's what makes the colors of its tail so brilliant. That's the traditional image for this practice, that the poison becomes the source of great beauty and joy. Poison becomes medicine. Whatever you do, don't try to make the poisons go away, because if you're trying to make them go away, you're losing your wealth along with your neurosis. All this messy stuff is your richness. But saying this once is not going to convince you. If nothing else, however, it could cause you to wonder about these teachings and begin to be curious whether they could possibly be true, which might inspire you to try them for yourself. Ah, look at that green, so good for your eyes. Actually, I think, oh, this is nice. I just saw a guy leaning against the tree and enjoying his reading. All right, back to the book. Acting out and repressing are the main ways that we shield our hearts, the main ways that we never really connect with our vulnerability, our compassion, our sense of the open, fresh dimension of our being. By acting out or repressing, we invite suffering, bewilderment, or confusion to intensify. Drive all blames into Mortimer. Okay, so Mortimer is really just like a placeholder for the things that are triggering. So it could be a person, an experience, a memory. This is going to be our random Mortimer for today. So drive all blames into Mortimer. Someone once heard the slogan drive all blames into one and thought it was drive all blames into Juan. Whether you call him or her Juan or Juanita or Mortimer, the usual tactic is either to act out or repress. If Mortimer, Juan, or Juanita walks by and craving arises, you try to get together by flirting or making advances. If aversion arises, you try to get revenge. You don't stay with the raw feelings, you don't hold your seat. You take it a step further and act out. Repressing could actually come under the category of ignorance. When you see Juan or Juanita or Mortimer, you just shut down. Maybe you don't even want to touch what they remind you of, so you just shut down. There's another common form of repression which has to do with guilt. Juan walks by, aversion arises, you act out, and then you feel guilty about it. You think you're a bad person to be hating Juan, and so you repress it. What we're working with in our basic Shamanta Vipassana practice and explicitly with the Tonglen practice is the middle ground between acting out and repressing. We're discovering how to hold our seat and feel completely what's underneath, all that storyline of wanting, not wanting, and so forth. In terms of three objects, three poisons, and three seeds of virtue, when these poisons arise, the instruction is to drop the storyline, which means instead of acting out or repressing, use the situation as an opportunity to feel your heart. to feel the wound. Use it as an opportunity to touch that soft spot underneath all that craving or aversion or jealousy or feeling wretched about yourself, underneath all that hopelessness and despair and depression. There's something extremely soft, which is called bodhicitta. When these things arise, train gradually and very gently without making it into a big deal. Begin to get the hang of feeling what's underneath the storyline. Feel the wounded heart that's underneath the addiction, self loathing, or anger. If someone comes along and shoots an arrow into your heart, it's fruitless to stand there and yell at the person. It would be much better to turn your attention to the fact that there's an arrow in your heart and to relate to that wound. When we do that, the three poisons become three seeds of how to make friends with ourselves. They give us the chance to work on patience and kindness, the chance not to give up on ourselves and not to act out or repress. They give us the chance to change our habits completely. This is what helps both ourselves and others. This is instruction on how to turn unwanted circumstances into the path of enlightenment. By following it, we can transform all that messy stuff that we usually push away into the path of awakening, reconnecting with our soft heart, our clarity, and our ability to open further. Okay, that's the end of the chapter, and we're gonna end there. That's been lovely. Hopefully, I can come back to this video and practice. Um, but in the meantime, let's take a look at this delight of nature. This ant has been circling around me, and I was trying to not be distracted. But here's it in full view. It's a giant. All right, see you next time, folks. Ciao. Happy reading.